What would you have done differently? You know, I get this question a lot. And the thing is, if this is the first time you've seen me, well, I was married to an alcoholic for 25 years. My wife, she passed away a little over 4.5 years ago. And I get the question, if you had to look back, what would you do differently? And initially, I like to say, well, life is a learning experience, and it's easy to look backwards and to think what you would have done. But there are certain instances that maybe I would have made a different choice, knowing what I know now. And really, the best thing you can do about speaking about this type of thing and looking back is a learning experience, maybe for others who find themselves in a similar situation. But yes, there's a couple things that I would have done very differently. One, in 2015, when my mother passed away. I'm going to go over that in a second. And the other one, I think I would have gotten her into a rehabilitation facility 10 years earlier if I had understood that this was a disease and really had any understanding about what alcoholism is at all. And like so many families and people going through the situation, I mean, I was woefully ignorant. I really didn't understand it. You have to realize alcoholism is a progressive disease. It's not something that one day you have a spouse who's, you know, doing crazy things and is completely out of control with the level of alcoholism that they've created on a daily basis. It's a progressive disease. It starts with a few glasses of wine and it ends with drinking anything they can get their hands on in the later stages. On that note, I think I wish I had gotten her into a rehabilitation 10 years before we did. And like so many people, she didn't go to her first rehab facility until she had her first DUI, until it became a legal issue. And the lawyer suggested she go to a rehab facility, which is never the best motivation. But she did, and it actually worked for her for a period of time. But like any disease, she would just went back to it because she didn't do the follow-up work and always had the excuse of, well, those people at those meetings are much worse off than me. I don't really need to be here, which is essentially a death sentence for anybody in that situation. And again, if she had gotten into a rehab 10 years earlier, her first rehab was in 2014. I think there were signs earlier on, if I had gotten her into a rehab in 2004, it would have had a lot more effect because she would have been in the earlier stages. But, you know, not having any understanding of this disease or what it was or where it was headed, there's no way you can make those kind of decisions when you simply don't know what you don't know. And I know a lot of families are in that position. She had a series of binge drinking, like around 2002, 2003, 2004, which I thought were, just overexertion of what she was really doing. I didn't really have an understanding. It's important. That's why I always go over the red flags of alcohol whenever I do a live, because it's important for that awareness to be out there and to take action as soon as possible. And to be honest with you, the second mistake I made is when my mother passed away in 2015. My wife stayed back at the house, my dad's house, and cleaned out my dad's liquor cabinet, which for me was just an atrocity that I never really got over the rest of her life, the last 4.5 years of her life. I think at that point, in my brain, I pretty much separated from her and just really wanted to get my son through college. If I had the do-over, I think I would have doubled down, absolutely. I mean, she was, at that point, I think we put her in a rehab when we got back, but I think I should have possibly separated with her at that time, or at least had her go to a sober living facility for at least a year. And I think we should have definitely had a physical separation at that time. But again, you don't know. I mean, there's so many other things that as a husband you're dealing with at the time. I mean, I had my own business. I was essentially a single parent, and then I had to deal with all of Amanda's stuff. And sometimes you're overwhelmed. So it's you can't sit back and judge yourself or have other people judge you for the life and the decisions that you're making. You do the best that you can with the knowledge that you have. In retrospect, again, I talk about these. So if you find yourself as a family member or as an alcoholic putting yourself or your family through the situation, maybe you need to reevaluate and understand the road that you're going down and take responsibility for yourself as the alcoholic. And I hope the family doesn't beat themselves up with whatever decisions they make, because ultimately they're going to have to live with those decisions. And again, above all, I really want to reiterate, every situation is completely different. So whenever I get judgy comments or comments that are just kind of off color, It's not. It's just not necessary, because every situation is completely different, and you can't take your own baggage and apply it to every situation. You can't apply it to someone else's life and somebody else's decisions. It's pointless, and there's no fruition there, and nobody learns from judgmental comments. So that's a perfect example of how society often deals with this type of thing, with flippant answers. And this isn't the time or the place. This is a place to education and explore, because we're all human beings here. Again, I go live Monday through Friday right around 6 o'clock Eastern Pacific Standard Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I also have the Facebook group called There's an Alcoholic in the Family. And again, when you're ready to work with me one-on-one, click on the link in the link tree, go to the Calendly link, set up a Zoom call. And again, thanks for listening.